I lost my virginity when I was 15 years old, and it was not by my choosing. I was from a small town, so I was very creative. I was always playing with my dolls, or if I was watching something, it would be Disney movies, and I would be singing along with all of them. I've always had just a passion for music and singing, and so at a young age I was going and I was performing and I was traveling and doing a lot of things. I grew up in a really good home. I'm super thankful for the parents that I have, the sister that I have. I was a pretty good kid. I didn't get into too much trouble until I was in my teenage years. So there was a group of guys that were in from out of town that did this baseball tournament. And my parents were out of town. My girlfriends and I decided to throw a party at my house and invite these strange boys over. They could drive, they were 16 and 17-year-olds, and so they show up at the house and they get all of us really drunk. It was also the first time I ever drank. He basically then took me into a room and forced me to have sex with him. And that was when things really started to take a dark turn in my life, and I wasn't even fully aware in that moment, like what was happening, because I was almost unconscious. And this guy, after like holding me down and doing what he did, looked at me and he was like, "You were like effing a dead fish," and walked out of the room. And I remember waking up the next day and like I felt like emptiness, you know, like hollow. And I was afraid. I couldn't tell my parents, you know, so instead of actually just being honest about what happened and going to someone, I completely hid it. I felt completely shameful. I felt just hideous. I felt like I'd been robbed and that that something was taken from me that I would never be able to get back. A lot of me felt like a part of my soul was taken from me. And as a 15-year-old, how the heck do you process that? I held on to that from the age of 15 to 29, and I never opened my mouth about it. I just think high school is hard for everybody, you know, because you don't know who you are, and you're trying to figure it out, and then you're being influenced by people that don't know who they are, so how can they try and tell you who you are, but you listen to what they say? The thinner you are, the prettier you are. The more attention you'll get from boys. You know, I did not need to lose weight. I was fine, but I saw myself as just this like beast in the mirror. I was like, I am obese, you know? And I'm like a size 2. I mean, I ultimately was the one that decided that I was going to activate any sort of disorder, and I ate dinner with my family, and then I was like, I don't feel very good. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And I went upstairs and I threw up my food. But yeah, it was this downward spiral. It's never an enjoyable experience. That is not enjoyable ever, ever. The disordered eating started at a young age because of the entertainment industry. And these girls were telling me how I should just eat cabbage soup all the time. You know, they're like, that'll make you thin and you'll feel really good about yourself and all this stuff. So I was starting to hear these things at the age of 13. But when I was 18, I had a manager and was doing the whole music thing. And I was in New York, and my manager at the time broke into my hotel room and tried to rape me. I got into a thinking process of, when I look like this, men can't control themselves, and so I'm gonna sabotage that. So then I started binge eating, but it was completely ruining my life. But I felt hideous through the entire process. I never once, when I was dealing with any of that stuff, actually felt beautiful. And I was just like, I hated myself. Even though I sometimes felt like everything was out of control, I continued to just like fight through as best I knew how. Having that fighter spirit is why I'm even here now. I was driving in the car with my mom, and I was telling her about all of these areas that I've actually like received freedom in, you know, that I'd been working on. And I was like, and I know that one of the biggest roots was because I felt like at the age of 15, like I lost my value as a woman. And I wasn't even a woman yet. She just lost it. She was just bawling in the car, and she had to like pull over. And she was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? And I was like, 'cause I didn't want you to be mad at me. And she was like, be mad at you? Like, are you kidding me? Like, we would have found that kid and we would have, you know, and just like, she's like, you had to go through that alone for this long? And it was finally like, I spoke it out, and it came out of the dark, because it'd been living in the dark so long, you know, the thing is, anything in the dark has to eventually see the light. Yeah, and it was like, oh wow, like my mom doesn't look at me as less of a daughter or less of a person. Like, she loves me just the same. I mean, that to me is such a driving force for just the way that I approach things now. You know, we're so busy trying to create this like perfect image, right? Like perfectionism. But I think that perfectionism breeds division, and I think that vulnerability breeds unity. And I think that's really powerful. Sometimes it's just a bad deck of cards, you know? And it's what we do with it that really, really defines us. Those circumstances don't define me at all. I define them. And now I finally feel like I'm back to this place where I'm just like, I love people, and I want to serve people, and I want to help people, and be a voice for those that feel like they are isolated and lost. If I hadn't gone through the eating disorder for so long, the self-image issues, the body image, the body dysmorphia, the sexual abuse, all of that stuff, I would be naive to a lot of people's struggles. I would have a lack of empathy and a lack of compassion because I wouldn't understand. Now, instead of looking at it as something that is, well, that sucked, you know, that period of my life was really sad and depressing. Now I look at it and I'm like, dang, I have amazing tools now. Because of that season of my life, because of the brokenness and everything, I now have gained all of these things that I can use to then, you know, help others. It's so strange to say, but I'm thankful that I went through that stuff. Like, I actually am. Because now I can sit with these girls, and I have, that are in it, that are in the thick of it, that feel like they don't have a way out. And then they look at me and they're absolutely shocked that I ever had any of that issue, you know, in my life. I have some of the greatest girlfriends now that I wouldn't have been able to have when I was going through all of that, because I was in a world of comparison, a world of rejection, and a world of jealousy that I didn't even know I was in. At the end of the day, it's all about love. Like, love other people, let love in, and love yourself for the love of God. Love yourself, please. Because out of that, out of the abundance of self-love and loving yourself and knowing that you are an incredible gift to this world, out of knowing that and operating out of that comes the overflow. And you can pour it out to other people. Now I actually understand that I am worthy, I am of value, I am someone that should be treated with respect and as someone who is precious. My name is Jessica Rovat. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior.